Every year, like prophecy, Accra floods. A heavy downpour, and suddenly
Okay.
cars are submerged, homes are soaked, businesses are interrupted, and lives are turned upside down. For those who are not affected and watch from afar, all this may seem like an overstatement. But then, for those who are struggling to return to normalcy, this is a headache that goes much deeper than a migraine. For many people in Accra, surviving a flood is like hitting a reset button. They have to almost restart their lives over again because they've lost so much. And just browse through all the social media platforms, and you're likely to see some video or maybe some post about different locations in Accra that have been flooded by the recent rains. You can look at places like Westland or West Legon, parts of East Legon, Lakeside, Ashaliboche, Shashi, Shangri-La, and all that. The list goes on. And unfortunately, the rainy season hasn't even properly started yet, and we have to go through all this. If a day's rain can cause this much instability, imagine what a few days worth of rain can serve. I'm not a doomsday prophet or anything like that, but then having faced these issues consistently over the years, I don't think I need to be a prophet to be able to predict that whenever it rains, there's going to be floods in Accra. This isn't just a headline issue, it's personal, it's frustrating, and it's also preventable. But then here's the hard truth, it's not just the rain, it's the result of decades of poor planning, weak enforcement, unregulated development, and also short term thinking, all of which directly affects the real estate sector here in Ghana. I'm Desmond Kafui, and this is Ghana Ground Up. New day, new look. In today's episode, we're talking about why flooding should matter to everyone in Ghana's real estate space, whether you're a buyer, maybe a developer, an investor, or just someone who's trying to find a safe home to rent. To understand why Accra floods so often, we have to look at its natural makeup. And by that, you can see that Accra generally is a low-lying terrain, is very flat. Some areas are hilly and all that towards, let's say, Pokwase, Ayawaso, Makate Hill, but then that's the minority. The majority of areas are low-lying, and these are the areas where rainwater naturally collects. And beyond this, we've also built over wetlands and natural floodplains. Places that used to absorb excess water have now been filled up and they now hold structures. And that should not have been the case, but then that is what we have to deal with at the moment. Now, other hillier outskirts of town, places like Kwabenya, Amasaman, and Nabokobi, and you'd see that when it rains, the water rushes down from these elevated areas into the central part of the city. The city then becomes a literal bowl, and you'd see that if the drainage can't keep up, definitely we're going to get some flooding. And it doesn't also help that much of Accra has clay rich soil, which absorbs the water very slowly. So you'd see that when it rains, the water doesn't just dry up or maybe seep into the ground. It stays on the surface for a pretty long time. And definitely when this happens over time, you're going to get some flooding. When you combine all these things with the paved surfaces from our rapid urban development, you realize that the rainwater really has nowhere to go when it rains. So, no, it's not just about the rain. The natural and man made geography of Accra makes it highly prone to floods. Now, let's bring this closer to home. Flooding directly affects the value and the appeal of real estate. If you're a developer, imagine pouring millions of Ghana cities or even dollars into a project only for videos to go viral online showing your developments turning into some form of a water park. If you're a landlord, imagine you're trying to rent out your property and then tenants know very well for sure that your porch becomes more of a pond every time it rains. Flood prone areas often struggle with reduced demand for rentals, they struggle with lower resale values, and also generally they struggle with negative online reputations. You'd see that for such areas, the cost of maintenance is higher, and also the cost of insuring property in that area or in those areas is also higher. In the long run, properties in flood zones become harder to sell, such that buyers normally avoid properties with flooding history. And even if it's beautiful, the stigma of the location will always affect how desirable that property is. Properties in flood zones are also harder to finance because, due to the risk attached to the properties in that location, banks may require maybe a higher down payment, sometimes even shorter terms to manage the risk involved with that property. And some may even end up just denying you access to mortgage based on the location of the property because, in the end, it's a lot of risk and they may not want to risk too much than they can bear. Another challenge is that a property in a flood zone is quite hard to insure, in a sense that insurance companies will normally end up charging you a much higher premium to cover that property, or they may just exclude flood coverage altogether. Because let's face it, in as much as insurance is there to protect you and keep you from feeling the full brunt of certain events, the certainty of flooding makes for bad business for them. Talking about insurance, we'll definitely be bringing you some refined updates on the different insurance options available for the real estate sector. So, do also subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for those episodes once they are published. This issue of flooding in Accra is not just some form of a rainy season inconvenience. It's a long term economic liability, and it's something that both developers and buyers must take very seriously. Now, if you're in the market looking for a place to make your home, please don't let the aesthetics or the beauty of the property you find blind you. Love may blind you, and you may fall in love with the property, but then over here, you've got to keep your eyes open and your head level. All the beauty of the property will disappear if the compound turns into a lagoon when it rains. And many people will normally fail to consider the different aspects or the different important aspects of a property before deciding to acquire it. To keep yourself safe and get it right, here are a few things you need to do. You need to ask the right questions. You need to ask about the drainage systems in the area. What is it like? Are there gutters? Are there storm drains? Where do those drains lead to? Is the land you're interested in reclaimed from a wetland? Is it a site that is demarcated as a Ramsar site? The house you want to buy, is it an elevated site that should it rain, the floodwaters won't come into your apartment or into your property? You also need to do your research. Visit the location after heavy rains like now to see what's on the ground, to see what the area looks like, to have a good idea what happens when it rains. Drive around, talk to those in the area, and definitely the people in the area will be happy to talk to you because a lot of the times when people are unhappy about certain situations, it's very easy for them to voice these things out. So ask questions, and I believe that you will get all the answers you need to decide on whether to invest in a particular location or not with the whole issue of flooding in mind. If you finally find a property that you're keen on, do well to get an inspection done with a professional. Let your surveyor or your engineer assess the slope of the land or the topography of the land. Let them give you a good idea about where the drainages should be, how it will be like when it rains, the water runoffs, and all that. You need to look for the signs around you. It's not that difficult to spot these signs. You can see these signs in the form of maybe stains on walls, water level stains. Maybe it could be some musty smell in the air or some mold on the walls and all that. If you see any of these things, let it be a red flag to you, and then you have to advise yourself whether to proceed with that property or bring in some professionals to do some inspection to sort of allay your fears. If you look closely, you'll find all the answers you need with relative ease. In all, a beautiful house on a bad land is a beautiful mistake. It is what it is. So, in the midst of all these, I believe that property developers need to do better. And here's what responsible property development looks like. There's property site evaluation before building or even buying that property. There's drainage designs that are designed or built into the architectural planning of every project. And also, the foundations in low lying areas need to be elevated so that when it rains, the water doesn't come easily into your property. The goal is to have a comprehensive plan that factors in the worst case scenarios and creates a system to mitigate them should they ever come up. The responsibility doesn't only fall on the shoulders of property developers. Real estate agents also have a crucial role to play here. Now, to all the agents out there, I'd say it's time to be honest. By no means am I implying that agents are dishonest. No. What I mean is this: many agents are often blinded by the promise of their commissions when they're handling their clients, and they normally end up leaning more towards closing a property deal than actually giving good advice to their clients. And by good advice, you're actually giving them good value for whatever money they'll be paying you. And that good advice could be you guiding them on the locations that are worth investing in and what locations are prone to problems like flooding, which I mean, definitely they should avoid. You see, you can't keep marketing properties in areas without proper drainage. And you can also promote, let's say, modern design and a serene environment when the first heavy rain or the first heavy downpour in that area will flood the area. Be minded that your clients will have to live with whatever investments you guide them to, And if you guide them to the right investment, definitely you can go to bed in peace, knowing well that you did the right thing. But then if you can't live with the decisions that you help them make, then definitely there's room to get it right. If an area is prone to flood, make sure you explain that to your clients. I believe that as an agent, being honest will not lose you business. It will rather build your trust with your clients. And that is what you need to close more deals. The private sector can only do so much. And so this is where the city authorities must step up. The drainage systems in Accra were designed many, many years ago for a much smaller population. Today, the city has outgrown its infrastructure, but then the systems have not caught up. I believe that government needs to enforce strict zoning laws, no more construction in waterways, and also the government needs to crack down on the abuse of building permits. The government also needs to invest in modern drainage infrastructure such that we need deeper drains that are well connected. In the age we're living today, I believe that a good initiative will be to digitalize land use data to help in future plans for the city, which will be rooted in data and not just some theoretical engineering or assumptions. But most importantly, we need to hold people accountable, whether it's developers, officials, or residents. We can't keep blaming the rain for the problems that we ourselves have created. Many of the existing drains in Ghana or in Accra are choked with silt and rubbish, and we have waste management contractors on payroll, but then the city is choking. I really commend the Bastard Boys for their outstanding work with the locations that they've touched over time. Imagine if their work is replicated across the city. I believe that a lot of these issues that we're facing now will be minimized, if not eradicated. So, do what you can where you can. All in all, what can be actually done to fix the crisis that we're in today, once and for all? I believe that flooding in Accra doesn't have to be a story on repeat. There's a need for massive investment in drainage infrastructure, and we need to move beyond just the short term desilting of gutters and drains and the waterways. We need a citywide master drainage system that is modern, effective, and built to scale. It's interesting what's happening with the mayor of Accra clearing the streets of trader folks to make way for human and vehicular traffic. I believe that we need the same verve for the drainage systems in Accra. Definitely, if we get it right, we don't have to deal with all these issues of flood. I also believe that we need to preserve our wetlands instead of filling them up and building over them. We need to protect and restore them to serve their natural function as sponges for excess rainwater. We also need to enforce strict building codes without compromise. A little compromise today will actually be a big problem brewing to happen later. So I believe that no permits should be awarded or granted for areas that are marked as flood zones, like let's say the Ramsar sites in somewhere in Sakumono. And you'd see that some people have already bought up the lands there and they've built in the waterways. Unfortunately, I saw a video of the aftermath of one of the recent rains, and obviously, it doesn't make sense to build there unless you plan to bring Nzulezo to the city. If a building fails to incorporate flood mitigation systems or probably some flood mitigation measures, I don't think you should approve the permits for such a construction to go on. Beyond all the strict measures that we can come up with, I believe that we also need some extensive public education and sanitation enforcement. Everyone has a role to play, you and me. When we dump plastics and refuse in gutters or when we improperly dispose these things off, we're actually creating the avenue for floods. We need some behavioral changes as a nation, and I personally believe that we need to bring back the old time town council folks. Tankers. As of today, we are nowhere near being free from floods. So, some early warning systems and some form of disaster preparedness will do us a lot of good. We have all the weather stations that foretell the onset of the rains. So we'll need our media houses to serve us timely updates to keep people updated on what to expect. We also need some extensive evacuation protocols. Not more. Now, if all these efforts come together, that's from the government, the private sector, and the public, I believe that flooding in Accra can truly become a thing of the past. Flooding is not just a rainy season inconvenience, it's a development issue. It's a real estate issue and it's also a planning issue. It destroys homes, it damages properties, it damages roads, it kills businesses, and it erodes the confidence in the very places that we call home. If you're part of Ghana's housing conversation, whether you're buying, whether you're building, you're selling, you're investing, you can't afford to ignore this issue of flooding in Accra and other areas of the country. Let's demand accountability, let's build smarter, let's plan better, because whether we like it or not, as for the rains, dear, it's inevitable. But then drowning in the same mistakes every year, well, that's a choice. Thank you for tuning in today. Subscribe to the channel if you're yet to. Share the episode and do well to catch up on what we've shared already and do well to also stay in the loop. Because why? There's so much more coming up. I'm Desmond Kafui, and this is Ghana Ground Up. I'll catch you in the next episode.